and welcome to 99 Yards, American football for UK fans. I am your delightful and capable host, Ryan Conway, stepping in for Liz Bandari, who is she's helping her husband put up some furniture. Those guys have just moved into a new apartment. Joining me today is Shauna Duthie, who I have just been told how to pronounce her name. How are you, Shauna? How are you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited for this. We've got a lot to get to, and of course, in the other corner we have George Somerville. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, Ryan. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we've had just absolute chaos before we got on air, but thankfully all technical issues are sorted. So let's dive right in this week. We've got a lot to get to. George, we're going to kick off with you, my man. AFC title game. The New England Patriots, they knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs 37-31 in overtime. A 9 Super Bowl appearance for Brady. And the Chiefs wait. It goes on and on and on. But, a 9 Super Bowl for Brady. Got to be impressed by that, man, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of negativity about the Patriots, right? You thought the end of the world was coming on a Monday morning when we all woke up to that. And I guess a couple of things that struck me was that irrespective of what you think of Tom Brady, and a lot of people have got some quite big emotions about him. That interview, the immediate post-match interview, he was like a 20-year-old, right? And that's what's driving this guy on. And there'll be generations long beyond me that will look back and go, "Oh, geez, I wish I'd seen Tom Brady in his prime." And I'm not a big supporter of the Patriots, but there's just something quite special about this man's drive to get through. And then the other thing, which I've mentioned a couple of times, sadly, is that I'm a huge fan of Tony Romo's commentating. And I think that was the pinnacle of the season for Tony Romo on Sunday night, because he confidently predicted almost all the plays that were coming his way. It was something to behold. And the other thing that goes slightly unmentioned was the defensive masterclass that Bill Belichick set up, because Patrick Mahomes, who's been exceptional all season, they went after him with a passion, particularly in that first half. And I think the defensive display of the Patriots was really quite a marvel, and again, something that quite often gets lost. So we see the Patriots in another Super Bowl. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but we're watching something quite special, I think.
Yes, we are indeed. And speaking of special, Patrick Mahomes had himself a very special season. It ended on a bum note, and it could have gone on had Dee Ford not lined up in the neutral zone, which is desperately unfortunate. And it's also cost Bob Sutton his job. Shauna, where do KC go from here?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Like, I was looking at some stats, and we've been questioning the Kansas City's defense for quite a while this season. We're saying their offense is absolutely amazing, but how does the defense match up? And I thought during the Colts game at the previous week at Arrowhead, they kind of clicked it together. Like I mentioned in the previous podcast, they had the Colts 3 and punt for their first 3 possessions, which is insanely good if you're wanting to get to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
But during the loss to the Patriots, the Chiefs defense allowed 524 yards and 36 first downs, which, if you're trying to get to the Super Bowl, 36 first downs is not what you want to be, letting up, especially against Tom Brady and the Patriots. So sadly, I do think probably the way for them to move forward was to let Bob Sutton go. I didn't expect it to go as quickly as he did. But yeah, we'll see where they go from here. But obviously they're going to get a new DC in, so it'll be interesting to see who they hire.
Yeah, it's fascinating because the Mahomes thing and the KC offense is absolutely wild. And it reminded me a lot of the 2013 Broncos in that people remember that for that special offensive season. But actually, that Broncos defense that year was pretty bad. And it took almost that year of offensive explosion for them to look at their defense and think, hang on, we need to retool this if we're going to go all the way. And obviously we saw it in 2015, they did. I think it's unreasonable to keep asking Patrick Mahomes and that offense to put up those numbers, and I think they will they will come back down to earth. There's absolutely no doubt about that. They will come back down to earth next year.
Do you know that? I don't think the Chiefs were a million miles away in that game. They had a chance just before halftime where Damian Williams was open in the end zone and Mahomes missed him, and that would have levelled the game. And they missed it. And of course, the Patriots got the ball back with a minute and something left on the clock and went up the other end and scored a touchdown to go in 14-7 at half time. Now, you go into that game tied. It wasn't a particularly one-sided game at all. It went to overtime. You just wonder what would have happened. And I totally get the point about the defence, because I think we were all surprised in the playoff game that the defence sprang to life. But there's been a lot of debate this year about offence winning championships. I think the Patriots will end up winning a Super Bowl, but we see.
Don't say those things to me, George.
I know, but I just wonder. It'll be very interesting to see what happens next year, because this is a team that's set up, stacked offensively. It will be interesting to see how it pans out.
Just so you know, guys, if the Patriots do win the Super Bowl, I might disappear for like a month or two.
Well, we won't be able to find out because your laptop never fires up, so we'll be at a loss without you, Shauna.
No, you really will. You really will.
You'd rather roam in the wilderness.
You wouldn't get my Shauna-isms about the Patriots.
All this negativity about the Patriots, I find it hard to believe that I'm trying to defend the New England Patriots on this podcast.
I think it was the first time in about 2 years I said something positive about Tom Brady today, and I was like, that video is quite funny with Gronk, and my colleague was like, I might have to record you, and I was like, I think you might, because it's not going to happen again sometime soon.
Excellent. Well, moving on to another stacked offense in a game that let's just get this out of the way immediately. The NFC title game, the Los Angeles Rams, they've punched their ticket to the Super Bowl. Another overtime win, this time 26-23 over the New Orleans Saints. This game is going to be remembered for one call, and we're going to get it out of the way. It's the no-call pass interference on Nickel Roby-Coleman, his hit on Tommy Lee Lewis. Now, I have some strong thoughts on this, and I've watched the game with some fresh eyes. That call is absolutely abysmal, but what is equally atrocious is how the Saints played after Ted Ginn had caught that absolute bomb from Breeze, which Joyner should have picked off. But after that, they, on first down and 1st and 10, they throw a quick hitter to Michael Thomas under 2 minutes. It's incomplete. They then throw a pitch to Alvin Kamara, who couldn't get anything going on the ground. He had 8 carries for 15 yards, and one of those was a 6-yard carry. That was his longest of the day. They throw a pitch, and he gets back to the line of scrimmage. Then we have that no-call pass interference. So the call is bad, but the Saints butchered that last possession. George, Shauna, what are your thoughts about? Let's just focus on that call and that drive. Let's get this out of the way. What are your thoughts on that?
That call to me was the most blatant thing that I've seen in the I would even call that. I would call that. I'm not an NFL ref.
Really?
No, I'm thinking of becoming one though. So I was talking about it to a colleague today at work, and we were like, he wasn't even looking at the ball. If he was looking in that direction, and this is in real time, because people do say, obviously it looks a lot worse when you slow it down in the review. But even in real time, I was like, where's the flag? Where's the flag? And it just never came. And I was just like, that is absolutely insane, because he's not looking that way. Bearing in mind, though, I agree with you, the Saints didn't utilize their offense that well, I personally think, in terms of that quick and throw, and also they won the ball first in overtime. They didn't utilize it. They could have scored first, but I'll get to overtime in a minute.
They did, and I mean, George, we saw basically after the pass interference call, it was very, very obvious that the Saints never regained their composure. And Drew Brees, as Shauna just mentioned, Drew Brees throws a ball that I don't think I've seen him throw this year. It's a horrific throw that he makes, and it's a pick. Now, credit to the pressure. I think it was Aaron Donald that got in his face, because Aaron Donald. but we credit the pressure. But that was a really errant throw from Breeze, and it ultimately, gave the Rams good field position to go down and get the field goal.
It totally shook them. I have to be honest, I wasn't overly impressed with the Saints in the game at all. And you're right, the way that they finished that series was just abysmal. The calling and the play was just terrible. I mean, it's almost like the Saints did whatever they could to throw that last series away. Watching that, you're watching that, and I actually did want the Saints to win. As I've said, on a couple of occasions on this podcast, I had visions of Drew Brees riding away in the sunset with a Super Bowl under his arm. That's not going to happen, mostly because they were just dreadful in that final quarter. The no call was appalling, and actually I was just sitting back there waiting for Shauna just to go off because I've heard her thoughts on this already, and she's remarkably calm, I have to say. But I think when you hear, not biggest fan of Stephen A. Smith, but he used the word egregious. Jeff Reinbold called it criminal on Sunday night. I think it was a terrible call. Actually, a little bit of what's missing is that if the defender plays the ball, he catches it. Because it's not a particularly good throw at the best of times.
He probably takes it for a pick six.
Exactly. Exactly. So what's missing there is the fact that actually the defence put their own team under pressure by not making, by effectively blocking or taking the player out. So if the play had been, or if the play had been called, then, or the flag had been thrown, what would have happened was that, let's say the Saints would have won the game and that would be the end of it. And there'd have been a lot of talk about the criticism towards the defence. Actually, it worked the other way for them. It was a terrible call. There's been a lot of chat about what's going to happen, what should happen, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it's the referees didn't call it. It's over. The question then is what should you do with a particular ruling? And we know how the NFL loves to tinker with rules, but I was very.
Is that not part of the problem, that the NFL likes to tinker so much every year with the rules? Because it almost makes the officials' job harder, right? They've got so much to look out for already, and now the league is saying, oh, and we're altering this and we're altering that, and now you have to judge such a rule one way and such a rule another different way. I mean, it just seems like it makes everything much more convoluted, and therefore you can't be surprised when a call gets horrifically botched like it did in the title game.
Some of the rules I don't agree with that they've implemented this year, but that has to be looked at, because at the end of the day, I was convinced, like George was, that Drew Brees would go into the Super Bowl and then he'd win the last one, he'd retire, like the sunset picture, and now he's not in it. And it's a massive call, and people are saying the Saints fans should get over it. I know for a fact if that happened to the Seahawks in a championship game, I would be fizzing into next year, and trust me, I would be.
I mean, on another aspect of this wildly fascinating game, this game seemed to have everything, but one thing it didn't have a lot of, see how I segued there, is Todd Gurley. He had 4 carries for 10 yards and a touchdown, and he had, I think, 1 catch on 3 targets for no yards, or 3 yards, apology. We were told, I wasn't personally told, I don't have those connections, but the TV told us that Todd Gurley had no physical problem. So what on earth was he doing on the sideline?
That was a strange one to me. I mean, it worked because they won, but
yeah.
But I still don't get it. They have to play him now in the Super Bowl. If you don't play him in the Super Bowl, then it's insane.
But how can you have probably the number one threat in the NFL just sitting, idly by on the sideline, pedaling his exercise bike, and it was such an odd set of circumstances, and clearly the sideline media people were trying desperately to find out, was he injured, was he not, and I don't know if we actually get to the point. I mean, I think there's a lot of chat about him holding hamstrings and stuff. I don't know, but it's just an odd situation where you've got such a potent threat in such a key game, that you wouldn't use them. And I don't think anything really much has come out of the Rams camp since then. So either there is something quite innocent about it all, or they're managing to keep it under wraps, presumably because they're going to the Super Bowl. But whether it all unravels after that, I don't know.
So, obviously the pass interference call is one rule that we think needs looking at. Another rule which has really divided social media and, well, every form of media across the world of NFL is the overtime rule. So we saw the New England Patriots get the ball, march down, touchdown, and they walk off, and Patrick Mahomes and the offense never get a chance to see the field. We've seen this so many times before, and every time it happens, there's a little bit of outrage. I just want to know where you two stand on the overtime rule. Do you like it? Would you change it? George, what are your thoughts on the rule?
So you know that I follow the college game a lot, and that's where my passion lies. College, I think, has got a much fairer system where teams get turnabout. So if you score on your first offense run, then the other team gets a chance to get back. And I think it's a fairer system. It works well in the college game. People find it exciting. The teams also start off in the 25-yard line, so you start off in the red zone. It's a very exciting way to finish a game. It does have a drawback because in last November, LSU and Texas A&M played what turned out to be the longest college football game ever, with 74-72 scoreline and winning in the seventh overtime. So, if you wanted to sit and watch a game for over 5 hours, then that was your game. But it doesn't often happen. That mostly they expedite it if you get to the third overtime. But for me, it's far more exciting, and I just don't like the idea that somebody scores the first touchdown and then the game's over, as the Patriots did in the last Super Bowl win.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm about to rock your world here. I'm going to say, it even goes back to like when Aaron Rodgers couldn't get on against the Seattle Seahawks, like in overtime. It's crazy that you score in your first possession and that's it. Like it just doesn't seem fair. Like as George mentioned, Matt Ryan didn't get on in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is the biggest game out of the entire year, and the Falcons were winning up until the very last minute when Brady got that 2-point conversion. They win the toss, so basically it's a 50-50 chance. Oh, I win the toss, so great, and now I can go score a touchdown or kick a field goal, and I won. It's to me, it's just crazy. It does need to be looked at because it's 3 occasions now where we haven't seen a QB come on and be able to get it back for their team.
Yeah, and I get the pushback that people always get is make another defensive stop. Make another defensive stop. Make one more play so your offense can get the ball back. But, well, hang on. The team that got the ball the first time, they didn't have to make another defensive stop. Or the other argument is, well, win the game in regulation. Well, the other team didn't win the game in regulation. So all these things that, they almost feel like flippant and snide comments. And but when you look at overtime in a bubble, you think, well, the deck is stacked against whoever loses the toss, and in a game where you're meant to create a level playing field, that isn't fair. And people can talk about equal possessions, unequal possessions. When you set a rule out that says the next score wins, it means the offense can tilt their hand and say, right, well, we'll just go down and get a touchdown. It alters the play calling, as it does for a defensive coordinator, because he is under so much pressure now to get that 3 and out, knowing that the entire season rides on it. That isn't fair, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know how you would take the rule on after, if 2 teams score. Like George said, we don't want like 7th overtime, although a game of 7th overtime where they just keep scoring would be my absolute jam. But but I think the first step of changing the rule is both teams have to possess the ball once.
Well,
I agree.
In college, after the third overtime, you can't kick an extra point. You have to go for 2.
That's awesome.
So what happens then is it becomes a shootout, and clearly it didn't happen in the LSU Texas A&M game, but usually it's quite an exciting way to end the game. And actually, it's proven because there's been some exceptional overtime games in college, legendary stuff. So for me, that's the way to go.
I think after every score, a team should have to pick a player that they have to remove from the offense, and then and whittle it down until you've got like just the practice squad guys out there. That'd be awesome. What I'm also here for is the NFL UK games. They were announced, and I will be there for at least one of them. So we have the Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and if you follow me on Twitter, you will know that my affection and affinity for Cam Newton is endless. So I will probably be at that game. The Chicago Bears at the Oakland Raiders, the Cincinnati Bengals at the LA Rams, and the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ladies, gents, any of those games jump off the page to you? Obviously, it's very hard to decide at this juncture, but any games stand out?
Bears Raiders for me.
The Khalil Mack Bowl.
Yes. I need to see a John Gruden meltdown on the touchline, and I want it to be Khalil Mack giving it to him. That would be so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, and it's going to be fascinating what that Raiders team looks like with 32 first-round picks or whatever it is, and also what the Bears look like in year 2 under Nagy. George, any of those that tantalise you?
Yeah. But just go back to the Bears game. So that's the first time that Khalil Mack will have faced the Bears. Is that correct? And then also last year, wasn't it the first time that Marshawn Lynch had faced the Seahawks playing for the Raiders? So I thought it was an interesting dynamic there. But anyway, the game that I think stands out for me, because I'm going to let you talk about the Panthers, but I thought the Texans Jags is interesting on 2 counts. One, we haven't seen the Texans, so we all have a bit of Texas, and that'll be cool. They'll bring a bit of razzmatazz to them. And then who knows what the Jags are going to look like. I've always been a supporter of Big BB, but I don't think that Blake will be the QB. He might be the starting QB, but I'm not sure he'll be the QB by the time they get to London. So it'll be interesting to see how the Jags shape up next year. What's a very important year for them. So that's the game that stands out for me.
I like that. You call him BB or Blake. Are you guys that tight that you got them nicknames going on? Hey, me and BB, me and Blake.
Yeah, he hasn't run for brunch, Ryan, but you're not invited.
Yeah, when he drops into London, he comes round for a quick bacon sandwich on a Sunday morning before he heads off.
It's fine. I don't want your lunch with Blake Bortles. I will be following Cam Newton around London and asking for fashion tips. Yeah. I am going to talk about the Panthers and Tampa Bay Buccaneers because also, apart from Cam Newton, who actually we don't even know if he will be there because there is talk that he will be completely shut down for next season with this shoulder problem that he's got, and obviously a player of his skill set, his talent, 2015 MVP. We need a fully healthy Cam Newton on the field, and if that's what it's going to take, it'll be a shame. But if it extends his playing career, that's awesome. From a Tampa perspective. Oh, Doctor, there is a lot to talk about from a Tampa's perspective. I love Bruce Arians getting a head coaching job again, and his fit with Jameis Winston. Mike Evans obviously is a stud receiver. It'll be interesting to see, and obviously we don't know quite yet when the schedule will look. So we don't know how Tampa will be shaking out from what's been a really turbulent and disappointing season for those guys. But yeah, I think it's good. You get to see some superstar players, even if Cam is shut down. On the other side, you've got Luke Kuechly, who I think Wembley will be ringing out to the sounds of Luke for every tackle. But it is a fascinating game. But we have no real idea of what the teams will look like until we're into the next season.
Sorry, I'm excited for draft
season.
No,
sorry, continue.
Oh, I was just saying excited for draft season. We're getting there.
Excellent. Yes, good hot take. We'll save that for the draft podcast next week. And the final one, the Cincinnati Bengals at the LA Rams, who could be Super Bowl champions when they come back here.
It's a good omen.
Any thoughts on this game? But me personally, I find the Cincinnati Bengals one of the most boring teams on this earth, and I mean out of all of sport. Honestly, they just don't do it for me. I mean, I love AJ Green, I love Geno Atkins. They just don't do it for me.
They've got some interesting players like you just mentioned, but yeah, I think that game is the one I'd probably say I'm least looking forward to, because I genuinely think it could be a shout.
And you know what's going to happen? That is going to be the best game, because what's happened in the last few years, where we've said, oh, the Seahawks and the Raiders, that's going to be fantastic, and we could sell Wembley 4 times over. Actually, it's the game that no one fancies that is the one that turns into the real cracker. I think it will be very interesting to see if the Rams were to win the Super Bowl. Then we would have 2 Super Bowl winners back to back, which would be pretty cool for the UK game, to be honest. The Bengals are going to go through a bit of a change this off season, so it'd be interesting if they can be dragged from being the most boring team in NFL to something quite more dramatic. So yeah, I think listen, there's a danger that we get a little too blasé about the teams. I'm amazed that the Panthers are coming. I was at a NFL UK Live thing, I think it was last year, where the commissioner was asked about the 3 remaining teams coming over. And I have to say, he had a poker face, but one of the things he suggested was that the Panthers couldn't come because of their lease agreement, which meant they had to play their home games at home. So clearly they've managed to get round that. And we all thought the Texans were going to go back to Mexico City. We clearly know the issue with the Packers. So I think the fact that we've got 2 of the teams that we haven't seen is quite an incredible bonus.
Yeah, and the fact that the Green Bay Packers are now the only team that haven't come over, thus furthering my impending misery at the NFL UK, which I am now, I can now call it a farce, because they haven't brought the Packers over. It's a conspiracy, and everyone's in on it, and I just don't know why yet. I think it's personal.
Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the same hat game as Cam Newton, so
no, exactly.
That is a fair criticism.
The point, which is well versed now, about not only is the fact that the Packers are never going to give up a home game. Apparently, no one wants to give up a home game against the Packers, so it's one of the biggest selling games in any team's schedule. So actually, we've got a little bit of an issue, and that I'm not quite sure when the Packers come, but the pressure's going to mount because they're the only team not to be coming now, and we all want to see the bell. 2/3 of this podcast definitely wants to see the Packers, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another example of Aaron Rodgers being both a blessing and a curse. Anyway,
I want to see the Packers. I just don't have as much love for them as you guys do.
You're outnumbered this afternoon.
There's no need to get personal about it. If you read
my NFL Girl UK blog, you'd understand why I have a little bit of animosity towards the Packers, okay?
Yeah, and if you watch the 2014 NFC title game, you will understand my hatred for the Seattle Seahawks.
Well, my point, their defense couldn't stop Russell Wilson.
Anyway, the NFL annual awards, they're approaching. They'll be announced the night before the Super Bowl. The MVP honours, obviously, the big one with the 2 front runners being Patrick Mahomes and Drew Brees, and realistically, it's just Patrick Mahomes. So, with that in mind, we are going to go around the table. Well, we're audio, we're actually in separate rooms. There is no table, but we're going to go around the various channels and see who is our MVP, our Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and our Offensive Rookie of the Year. And George, we're going to start with you and your MVP. So who you got?
Drew Brees. I just think he's had a great season. He's 40 years old. He shouldn't be doing this any longer. Aside from the last game there, I think he's had an exceptional season and proven that us old guys can still do it.
So you're showing the old man some love. That's what it is. You don't want the young gun.
Not the young gun. He's got many years to do it, and if he's still doing it when he's 40, I'll be quite impressed. But Drew Brees is very impressive.
That's what. Well, I am going to go with the other contender and front runner, and it's Patrick Mahomes, because how could you not be amazed by him? He's so good, and I know it's common, and I know it's it's not exactly a take so hot you need oven gloves, but he's just been awesome. And him it's a good reminder that the NFL for us is entertainment, and he makes me smile when I watch that KC offense operate, and he's just been so gosh dang good, and I love him, and he's my MVP.
So
Shauna.
I'm throwing mine a little bit out there because that's what I like to do in my life. I am giving all the love for the defensive lineman, Jurrell Casey at Tennessee Titans. I know you probably think I'm an absolute nutter, but I don't care.
I thought you were a nutter before the pick, but I liked Jurrell Casey. But why did you pick Jurrell Casey?
Okay, because the week one loss, right? The Titans, and not just the longest contest and the hottest game the temperature in Titans history. They lost some players, and then this guy steps up, right? And by the time the Eagles comes, he racked up 11 QB hits and 9 tackles for loss, right?
That's absurd.
That is absolutely insane. To me, that is crazy. He also keyed the defense that surprised the Titans and the Jaguars in the next 2 weeks after that loss. So he is, to me, the unsung star, and also he just needs a little bit of love. He's a destructive force at that line of scrimmage. So yeah, I'm going Jurrell Casey.
Well, we're coming straight back to you for your defensive player of the year. So you're going to give that to Casey as well? Who have you got for your defensive player of the year?
No, I'm not going Casey with that one. He's my MVP.
Yeah, that's true. You always get the scenario where the MVP and then the offensive player of the year is basically the MVP runner-up, right?
Exactly, right?
So why not on a defensive level? So who's your defensive player of the year?
I'm going Khalil Mack for the defensive player of the year. The guy gets traded to the Bears, which probably actually is better for him at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And he's just been an absolute force on that defense. He was everywhere. It was just unreal. I watched him in the game against Seattle, and I was just like, yeah, damn, I will take the loss to him because he is, incredible.
Yeah, for the first 6 weeks, he was basically just a one-person wrecking crew. It was absurd the kind of plays he was making on a consistent basis.
So it's amazing. I mean, Gruden was criticised for letting him go and all that kind of stuff, and you just look at that and you go, wow. Anyway, my defensive player of the year is no great surprise. It's Aaron Donald.
No,
Aaron Donald. I think.
No.
Pick yourself up off the floor. I tried my hardest not to pick Aaron Donald, but I just don't know how you can't have him because he has been just so impressive. And you talked very eloquently there about your MVP, but Aaron Donald has recorded 50% of the Rams sacks for this year, or nearly 50, I think 49%. And the Rams have had 34 sacks, so he's had 16.5 sacks in the year. He's had 34 hits on the quarterback. He's had 20 tackles for loss, and he's had 71 disruptions. He is a one-man wrecking ball, and probably one of, if not the reason that the Rams are going to the Super Bowl this year. So I think he's thoroughly deserving of that. And actually, if we all had a little bit more guts about us, we'd pick a defensive player for the MVP because actually, arguably, he's added more to that Rams side than anybody else. So yeah, he's my man.
I just did name a defensive player for MVP. He gave him no love.
I know. We're just ignoring you, Shauna.
I think the Donald MVP talk is really, really, really legit, and it's like when the JJ Watt MVP talk was legit in sort of 2013-14, and it's a shame that Mahomes throws for 5,000 yards, Drew Brees has an outstanding season, all of these things, but I feel for Donald, and I feel for every defensive player, and every player that isn't a quarterback, basically, because you don't really stand a chance of winning the MVP unless you put up just ungodly numbers from the position. My defensive player of the year is Kyler Fackrell. 10.5 sacks for the Green Bay Packers. I'm joking, but I did want to give some love to Kyler Fackrell because he actually had a really nice season. But no, my defensive player of the year was also going to be Donald, and I could just ream off everything that you've just said, George. He's just outstanding. He's a joy to watch. And if you need an advert for the NFL coming over here to the UK, he's that guy. I mean, he's just absolutely tremendous. But I get first dibs on Offensive Player of the Year, and it's a guy that I wrote about on 99yards.co.uk. You can head over there right now and check out all that wicked content. See, get the plug in straight away. And it's a man that I dearly love. It's Tyreek Hill. He's my Offensive Player of the Year. He's so good. And he came into the league as basically a return specialist, to quote Jalen Ramsey. And now he's a legit wide receiver one. Like, we always think of wide receiver ones as these big physical guys, but recently guys like Julian Edelman, Antonio Brown, Adam Thielen, and now Tyreek Hill, they're changing what it means to be, a starting, a legit, number one receiver you can build an offense around, and he's been absolutely awesome. And that he's. I mean, you guys can have the rest of the NFL because he's my offensive player. Yeah. So here you go.
I agree with you 100%. I don't really think you can pick anyone else for Offensive Player of the Year. Like, as soon as you see him running, you can basically the defense should just stop because there's no chance you're going to catch him. Just forget about it.
I mean, it wasn't in the same season, but the play last year against the Cowboys where, it's going into halftime and he sprints around like 6 of them. That's the kind. I know it was last season, but that's the kind of stuff he could do, and he does it just so often. You put the ball in his hands and he's electric. I take it he's your pick, Shauna. Is Tyreek Hill also? Are we in the Tyreek Hill boat?
I am fully in the title. Sorry.
Well, I think the only one that gives someone a run for his money is Todd Gurley at the Rams, because I think he's had another exceptional season. But I can't disagree with what you've all said. But just to be awkward and different, I'd have Gurley in Los Angeles.
If you're going to be awkward and different, you'd pick someone like Latavius Murray. Not to take a shot at Latavius Murray, he's a very good running back, but I don't think he's on anyone's Offensive Player of the Year stack.
Ryan, I'm going to get a big banner for us for our Tyreek Hill boat. And
yes.
We're going to be fabulous. We're going to run down the River Thames.
We'll sail it. We'll have a big sort of blow up. You know, like the guy that had the Donald Trump baby over London.
Be us, with a
Tyreek Hill one. Yes, absolutely. I'm all in on this. So the rookies on the script here, I say that I'm going to go first, but actually I am going to let you go first, George. Let's snake this thing. Who's your defensive rookie of the year?
So I was torn here a little bit. My head says Derwin James, but actually my heart's going to say Leighton Vander Esch because
I like that pick.
Oh yeah, that's a good pick.
I know everyone is fed up listening to me saying it, but I was in AT&T when the Dallas Cowboys picked Leighton Vander Esch, and the Cowboys fans booed that pick. And anyone who knew anything knew that the Cowboys defense relied solely, and I mean solely, on Sean Lee. And the big problem that the Cowboys have had for a number of years is keeping Sean Lee upright. And the fact that the Cowboys and everyone else is not talking about Sean Lee this year tells you how good a pick the boy from Boise State actually was. So I think he's been a sensational pick for the Cowboys, and he's my defensive rookie of the year.
That is a good pick. I mean, sorry, Sean, just before you jump in there, didn't the Cowboys boo the pick of Zach Martin a few years ago?
I think a bit like the Jets, they do like to have a good boo about them, and they certainly booed. And actually, the other thing was, it struck me that you could tell it was in Dallas, because as soon as the Dallas pick was made, about 3/4 of the stadium stood up and walked out to go to the bar. So I just thought, I think they were looking for something a little bit more glamorous, but actually what they've got someone who turns them into a winning team. So I think that was a good pick.
Absolutely. And Shauna, who have you got for your defensive rookie of the year?
I'm going for Bradley Chubb
I like that pick as well.
Because he finished his rookie season with 12 sacks, Only 4 other rookies have ever posted more than him throughout the entire NFL, which is insane. And also, he surpassed Von Miller. So Von Miller in his rookie season had 11.5 stat total, which I'm not quite sure what that means. But for his 2011 rookie season, so now Chubb has surpassed Von Miller. And we know how good Von Miller was back then. How good he has become now. So this guy, I am so excited to see what he can do moving forward, and he is my rookie.
Yeah, especially with Vic Fangio now the head coach there in Denver, he could make that front seven really, really nasty with those guys he's got on the edge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's weird because there was some stuff after a month of the season that was really heavily criticising Chubb, for not really getting enough snaps, being out-snapped, I think, in one game by Shane Ray, I believe. So he took some heat early on in the season, and he came back down the stretch. He was an absolute monster. It's an Indianapolis Colt who is my defensive rookie of the year, and it's Darius Leonard, who has just been absolutely awesome. He's racked up 111 tackles, 7 sacks, 8 pass defenses, 2 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, and generally, sideline to sideline linebacker. I know he's an outside linebacker, but he just flies all over the field and makes plays in the backfield, getting to the passer, against the run, against the pass, and coverage. He has been everything and more that Indianapolis Colts defense desperately needed from its linebacker position. He's the sort of player that KC should probably target going into the draft. That kind of linebacker to help their linebacking corps. He's just been absolutely phenomenal, and they've got something really, really special with him. He was a second round pick, right?
Yeah, that's right, and probably the reason that Colts team got as far as it did this year, because he was a real difference maker. He really did. Set them aside. I thought he had a wonderful season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was awesome. And to swing round, and for my offensive rookie of the year, and people might call it a bit hipster, but I don't care. It's Quentin Nelson. Because when you play a part in keeping Andrew, bearing in mind Andrew Luck would repeatedly get decked behind his offensive line, and Quentin Nelson isn't the sole reason for it, but he is an enormous part of why Andrew Luck was sacked a league low 18 times, and that offense was basically humming after their 1-5 start, and a big part of why they could make the playoffs, a big part of why they could run the ball. Yeah, they've got, and I think now we're seeing the offensive line is basically becoming the building block of, or it's, well, I suppose for football heads, it was always been the building block, but now the offensive line is this building block that you build a championship team around. And Quentin Nelson being plugged in on that Colts line, he's just been transformative for that offense.
I think that's a great pick. Never a sexy pick, picking the big guy in the centre, but I thought he had. It's not a podcast for me without mentioning Notre Dame and the Fighting Irish, and he had a fantastic few years there. It was a great pick. It was a relatively high pick, but it was a great pick for them because what they really needed, and it's been proven, was to keep Andrew Luck upright. They've done that. Andrew Luck has played a very good season. We didn't talk about Andrew Luck, and he's maybe not quite the MVP candidate that he could have been, but I still think he had an exceptional season. Mostly, almost certainly, down to the big man Nelson in front of him.
And in the run game, Nelson routinely eats one man alive every week in the run game. He just flattens one man, and it's all over social media, and it's great. It's so much fun. Shauna, we'll get your pick for the offensive rookie of the year.
I am going with Lamar Jackson.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that. Your love for Lamar Jackson is unparalleled, Miss Duthie, I tell you.
Let her have a Lamar Jackson love. Shauna, tell us why it's Lamar.
He's right. Who can say in a rookie year that you rallied your squad to a playoff berth, right? Who can say that? Like, that is absolutely incredible. And also, people keep going, oh, Baker Mayfield. Right, okay, yes, Baker Mayfield has had a stunning season. But just a quick update. By December 23rd, Baker Mayfield was 5-6 as a starter. Sam Darnold was 4-7. Josh Allen 4-5. Josh Rosen 3-8. And what was Lamar Jackson? 5-1, right? That guy is incredible, and he's getting all my love for offensive player of the year. I know he probably doesn't really stand a chance of getting it, but he completed 85 of 146 passes for 1,022 yards and 6 touchdowns.
I will say he turned the Ravens into one of the most milquetoast operations in the NFL into one of the most exciting offenses. In fact, one of the most exciting teams to watch in the NFL. Just the way they tailored the offense just to him. It was quite incredible, the turnaround. You can't argue with his record. 6-1 as a starter, got him to the postseason. So yeah, the numbers speak for themselves there, and the record does as well. I like it. I love Lamar Jackson.
He is the king of the North, right? King of the North.
Right, absolutely. And he's effectively run Joe Flacco out of town, although Joe Flacco probably run Joe Flacco out of town with his absolutely bizarre and just sometimes disgusting play.
He just also appears like so humble. He's so humble for a guy that is so good. I don't know him. I wish I did know him, but I don't. But he just appears so humble.
We're reaching out to Lamar Jackson. Shauna wants to know Lamar. Do you know what?
Lamar, give me a call.
I think that's a great pick, if I'm honest, because I had 2 names written down, and Lamar Jackson was one of them. And the fact that he has ousted a quarterback who was there and has been there for a ridiculous number of years, rightly or wrongly, but it doesn't really matter. Joe Flacco was the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens. He won a Super Bowl with them. He was given the impression he was in there with the bricks. I know a lot of people have varying views about him, but it doesn't. He was an established quarterback. And Jackson's come in and, as Ryan rightly points out, has made them into one of the most interesting, and I also read the word intriguing, teams in the NFL, and they are exciting to watch. People want to watch the Baltimore Ravens, and that will get bums on seats, and it will keep the people in Baltimore happy for many seasons to come, as long as he keeps fit and healthy. The other name that I had, which I don't think will come as any shock, was who I thought was the best athlete in the draft this year, and it's Saquon Barkley, who is just a once-in-a-lifetime talent, and he's in a pretty... I know my brother won't thank me for this. He's in a rubbish Giants team, and he's running records like there's no tomorrow. And actually, if the Giants get their act together and get some weapons round about him, he will win them a Super Bowl, because I think he is an exceptional talent.
You mean if the Giants get their act together and can Eli Manning, who's been done and has been done for years? He was once a good QB, and he still has flashes of being a good QB, but so does Blake Bortles, and we absolutely kill Blake Bortles for just having flashes of being a good QB. You get Manning out of town.
I'm with George. I've got BB Love, so I've got Eli Love too.
This is absurd. I honestly. I can't abide by this. I can't stand by and let this go.
This is for another podcast coming to you soon. But obviously there's some talent in the draft which will allow, in the same way as the Colts managed to get Luck some help, they can get Manning some help. But equally, there's a couple of quarterbacks now in there that perhaps the Giants could swoop in and take. But I just think Barkley is exceptional, and he's shown that just the way he's played. The style he is, again, a humble guy who just gets on with it. None of the histrionics that you get from OBJ. I think, the Giants were routinely criticised for having a running back at number 2, and I just think that was a brilliant pick. I really do.
Absolutely. And this podcast that you spoke of, George, is this also a 99 Yards podcast, the college podcast, the draft podcast?
Well, of course, we've got a few exciting things coming up. We had our first college special a couple of weeks ago, which went really well. We'll be doing. We've done a mock draft already, but we're going to be doing another one. And Alex Chinnery, who's writing on the team, has just done his first own mock draft on 99 Yards. So head on over and read that, because it's very interesting. So yeah, a lot of stuff planned between now and the draft in April.
Oh, that is delicious. See, listeners, if you stay to the end, you lucky people, you can head over to 99 Yards and you can check out that quality content, and you can keep your ears tuned, keep them open, and you can get back onto this podcast and you can check out the draft stuff that the guys are going to be doing. I'm presuming you're going to be doing some free agency stuff as well, right?
Yeah, we're going to try and do quite a bit of stuff, quite a mix. There's a lot going on, so yeah, we'll cover as much as we can. It's exciting. It doesn't stop. We've got the combine, we've got the draft, then we've got summer training camp. So no rest for the wicked between now and September.
Wonderful. Shauna, are you in on any of this draft or free agency podcast action? Have you got anything to plug at the end of our wonderful show?
I just want Kyler Murray to play in the NFL, really. That's what I'm rooting for.
And we can't argue with that. We would all love to see that, especially if he's picked before 12, because that means that the Packers then, they could have a lovely, juicy player. I don't know why I use that term, but they could have a lovely player sat there waiting for them who would make an immediate impact. So yeah, if Kyler Murray, if you could be picked before 12, that would be quality for your career and all the lovely monies and set your family up. And also the Packers might have a player who otherwise wouldn't be on the board. Anyway, that is our show for this week. And I promise the next show, what on earth is that I'm hearing? What on earth was that? What is this? It's happening, everybody. It's happening. The apocalypse has come down. Anyway, as I was saying, thank you so very much for joining us on this edition of 99 Yards. You can find us on Twitter at 99 Yards. You spell it all out. And you can head over to 99yards.com and you can see all the delightful content that our wonderful team produce over there. That is everything from us today. So thank you very much, Shauna. Got it right at the end. Thank you very much, George. Your delightful host, Liz Bandaris. She'll be back on the next episode. I've been Ryan Conway. You've been delightful. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye.